Yeah, keep it going. Yeah, everybody, let's make some noise. That's incredible stuff. Congratulations, Jimmy. What an excellent standing ovation. Personally, I'm so excited about this one. And to officially present Mr. Lights, I'd like to bring a man to the stage who needs no introduction, and that's mainly because he was literally just up here, like a few seconds ago. It's Daryl Ray to present Jim Lights as the newest Hall of Fame member.
Thank you. Look, Josh, I've graduated to the lectern. I'll try to keep this short because I know Jim's going to go long, right? I think we all have people in our lives that have this pretty profound impact on your life. And for me, Jim Lights is one of those people. When I first came to know him, I had traveled to Dallas to interview for the job I've had for almost 30 years now, in large part because of him. It was 1996. I met with a man named Bill Strong, who I think is here tonight, perhaps. Bill? He was the person tasked with hammering out a contract with me. The initial offer was like 1 year and not what you would call generational money. I felt I needed a little more and a little more tenure to move down from Connecticut to the Stars. So I counter a slightly higher number. And he says to me, I don't think Jimmy's going to go for that at all. Then we discussed term, and I'd suggested maybe 2 years at least to uproot and move down to Texas. And he's like, well, I can't go to Jimmy with that. Now, Bill's a nice man, and he was just doing his job, but I'm thinking to myself, am I getting the car dealership service here right now? Sounds like it. Maybe I should be talking to this Jimmy guy. So I set up a meeting with Jim Lights, and I walk into his office in Valley Ranch. He greets me with that, babe, what do you need? I got my first babe from Jim. I explained my position. I'm like, look, just a little more money, and I'd like to have just a couple of years at least. Done, immediately, right? He's like, you're going to love it here. You're going to be great. Everything's going to be awesome. How many times have we all heard that strung together from Jim Lights, right? And so started a wonderful, nearly 3-decade relationship with the man that we honor here tonight. Through all those years, no matter what problems arose or cataclysmic situations kind of manifested themselves, Jim Lights would always just kick it in gear. Here's what we're going to do, he'd say, and usually follow it up with, it's going to be great. People are going to love it. You're going to love it. Many times I think he was trying to talk himself into believing all that as much as all of us. But that being said, I can tell you this, from the very beginning, everything that he told me was going to happen here in Dallas and with this franchise came to fruition. Every bit of it. I think when you look at Jim Lights' intermittent 3+ decade span of guiding this franchise, you see a man who is the absolute personification of this category, the builder. I remember when Tom Ghilardi was conducting his due diligence prior to purchasing the franchise in 2011, I suggested that he at the very least talk to, if not interview, Jim for the vacant team president position, knowing that his knowledge of the market, his leadership, his energy, his previous experience in that role, and maybe more than anything, his still burning desire to see this franchise succeed would be a huge asset for Tom, for all of us. And so I was elated that he did so, and it worked out, and it gave birth to, I believe, Jim Lights 3.0. Was that Jim Lights 3.0 at that point? Yes. Soon after taking the reins, Jim recruited his old colleague from Detroit, come to Dallas, head up the hockey side of things. And in turn, Jim Nill has built the Stars into a perennial contender. Over the decades, you may not have agreed with everything he said or did, but he could win you over. He could sway you with that gift of salesmanship, the machine gun laugh. We all know that laugh. The twinkle in those mischievous little eyes of his. And maybe more importantly, he always knew that he was doing it with the franchise's best interest and with the loyal support of ownership in mind. Pretty amazing. He served as consigliere to all three Dallas Stars owners, from Norm Green to Mr. Hicks to now Tom Ghilardi. So here's the bottom line as I see it. This franchise isn't what it is, and the sport doesn't have the foothold that it has here without the vision, guidance, and leadership that my longtime friend and boss, and now very deserving Dallas Stars Hall of Famer has provided. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to present 2024 Dallas Stars Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. James R. Lights.
Wow. What a tremendous honor, everyone. I can't tell you. I've been at this business for 42 years. What that means is I have an awful lot of people to thank. So while I don't want to say, get out your bedroll, I can tell you that Tom Ghilardi said, I'll take the over. So anyway. First, I'd like to thank the committee. Obviously, I'm honored and humbled. Appreciate it beyond description. I'd certainly like to thank my great friend Daryl Razor of all the best hires that this franchise has ever made, certainly in my 10 years. No one is more admired and appreciated than Daryl. He's a future NHL Hall of Famer, no doubt. A master wordsmith, sports analyst, broadcaster, and certainly friend for me. Always has been more about than just the game with Daryl. I'd also like to thank, as we get started here, Pete DeBoer, his staff, and all the players. These guys have played 6 games in 11 nights, won 5 of them, and now they have to come and attend this. So on behalf of everyone, we want to thank the players and the coaching staff for their unbelievable commitment to St. Philip's, which is an incredible cause, and to the franchise. Unbelievable. And before I start thanking others, I want to congratulate Brendan, Anne Marie, their family. I can't tell you how thrilled I was to share this night with someone I admired as much as Brendan Morrow. So, great. First, I want to thank the fans and the Dallas business community for all that they've done for us. Beginning in 1993, people might not remember this, but Dallas had hosted 1 NHL exhibition game in its history when the Stars got here. There was 1 ice rink. lonely out in Valley Ranch. And now, thousands of kids and adults are playing. Tremendous support in the business community. I think Brad and his staff are now the 4th or 5th highest grossing advertising sales business in the NHL. And the support of all the fans that have taken to the Dallas Stars 32 years ago, and it continues to this day, is incredible. And it's really, really gratifying. I can tell you this, if you're in the business of sports and in the National Hockey League, it all starts with the quality of the owners that I've worked with in my 42 seasons. I'd like to give a special thanks to Mike and Marion Ilitch in Detroit when I started, if you guys can imagine, in 1982. They gave me a chance. They gave me authority and independence. They spent copious amounts of money to make the franchise great in Detroit. They won the respect of the fans and the players. They rebuilt Joe Louis Arena, and they taught me to expand the business into related businesses, whether it's real estate, in their case, casino gaming, the Fox Theater projects I was involved in before I came to Dallas, and all the other things that can happen. And here it's really been about growing the game at a grassroots level. The emphasis that the Ilitches put on players, talent, scouting, and developing I took to heart, because that's why that became Hockeytown and why we've been successful. They taught me to take risks, do what it takes to be successful, and always be selling. Mr. Ilitch, who's passed, unfortunately, also imbued me with this concept. He used to say, you can go a long way managing people if you don't worry about who gets the credit. Words all the young people in the crowd should take to heart, because it really matters. Next, I'd like to thank Norman Kelly Green. Norman made me his partner, and it was a really good relationship, everyone. They had courage and commitment. They burned the boats. They set the tone. They got to Dallas, embraced the community. They just were terrific to work with, and they supported all the decisions that myself and the other people that started this franchise in 1993 were taking. I'm forever grateful personally to Norm and professionally, and they remain, I've spoken to Norman recently, they remain our biggest fans. Next, to my great friends, Tom and Cinda Hicks. In 1995, we were broke. We'd suffered through the first of the lockouts in 1994 and came out of that in a tough spot. We talked to several people that kicked tires. You guys might remember John Spano. That was a nice chapter in dark history. Mr. Spano remains in prison, I believe. But out of the blue, I get a call, and a good friend, mutual friend of Mr. Hicks and myself, said to me, you should go meet this guy. He's real. And I got to tell you, after Tom bought the team, he immediately calmed all of us down. He gave us confidence, power. We were able to negotiate with the Dallas Mavericks on building the American Airlines Center. He gave us power with banks, lenders, television, radio, and he allowed us the opportunity to build the American Airlines Center, which is to this day amazing to me that it's worn so well after thousands of games and thousands of events. The first question with Tom was always, what do we need to get better? What can I do to help? And I can tell you what he did. Guy Carbonneau, Pat Verbeek, Ed Balfour, Brett Hull, Sergei Zubov, Joe Neuendijk, all players we added to an unbelievable core to create one, I think, a generationally talented team in 1999 and 2000. We were great. I believe there are 7 or 8 NHL Hall of Famers on that squad. And without Tom's power and his confidence and all that he gave to us, it wouldn't have happened. I'd also, on a personal level, want to thank him because he gave me a chance to manage a Major League Baseball team. And while I didn't necessarily do a great job at it, it was just, for me, a kid who played baseball whenever he could, it was a thrill. And I appreciate his support in that regard. It was great. I can guarantee you we would never have won the Stanley Cup without Tom and Cinda Hicks' support. So thank you. Last and certainly not least, I want to thank Tom and Brittany Ghilardi. When I left in 2007, I never anticipated being back in the chair. I got a chance to work for the New York Giants football team, building MetLife, what is now MetLife, and I had a great experience in New York, even though I never left Dallas. When Tom finally bought the team out of real bankruptcy in 2011, it was perfect timing for me and my family. I was looking for the next thing. And I got to tell you, Tom has been great. He's a real hockey guy. He's owned a junior team, he understands the game, and acclimated very quickly to owning an NHL franchise. Like Mr. Hicks, he stabilized us immediately and allowed us to move quickly to fix the situation that we were in financially. Today's success with this franchise is not an accident. Tom's a great businessman, asks really good questions, he's tough, and cares passionately about the team. And my wife Kim and I really appreciate the support he's given us since the day I met him. I will say this, the success of teams in all sports, but particularly in the NHL with a hard cap, is all about the quality of the general managers. And I got to tell you guys, the general managers I've been lucky enough to work with in my tenure in Detroit and here has been unbelievable. They are, all of them, are either in the Hall of Fame or gonna be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. The key to success is drafting and developing talent. And I can tell you, I will start with my original mentor and general manager, and I wish he was here. He's getting a little older, he doesn't travel as well. Jimmy Davellano was my first general manager in Detroit. He's a mentor and a friend. He's a member of the Hall of Fame. He may be, in fact, the greatest scout in the history of the game. His tree includes Neil Smith, Kenny Holland, Steve Yzerman, and our current GM here, Jim Nill. And all of those guys will tell you, nobody could assess talent like Jimmy Davellano. So I want to thank Jimmy because he took me under his wing. We got along great, and he was just terrific to work with. The next guy, when I moved to Dallas in '93, I can tell you, I inherited him, but he was fantastic. Bob Gainey. You know, for a guy like me, Bob was an icon. He was the toughest, most kind of intimidating player that you can imagine. I remember Jimmy D saying we had this young player on our team, Steve Yzerman, pretty good player. And I just remember we'd go into Montreal and have to play. Yzerman would have to play against Gainey. And Jimmy D would say, you might as well go sit down. No way he can play against Gainey. No chance. It's too tough, too good. Well, Bob and I forged a really good friendship. We were all here in Dallas together. And I can tell you, everybody walked taller working with Bob Gainey. He was a legend. He commanded respect, earned it, and deserved it. So Bob, I want to say thanks to Bob. He couldn't make the night. He sent me a really heartfelt message, and it's appreciated, but he was terrific. Next, his right-hand guy, my great friend who's here tonight, and I appreciate you, Dougie, for coming from St. Louis to be here for this. It means the world to me. My great friend, Doug Armstrong. He's a Dougie was tough, smart, got it, trained by Bob, understood, knew what he was doing. He's got a great sense of humor. We had a ton of laughs, a lot of tough times, but a lot of great times, just fantastic. He's a quick study, really decisive, a risk taker, and he's really no bullshit. Couldn't be just a better makeup for a great general manager in our league. And more importantly, Doug and I got fired together. And for me, that's a badge of honor. I believe Doug Armstrong, after winning the Cup in St. Louis with the unbelievable success he has, he'll be inducted eventually into the NHL Hall of Fame. If I was starting a franchise, I can't believe that there's anybody more suited. I'd hire him in a minute. I mean it. Thanks, Doug. And last, but certainly not least, I'm going to tell you the story of my relationship with Jim Nill. Jim was a trusted veteran player in Detroit at the very end of my tenure there in the late 80s, early 90s. I tracked he got hired eventually first by Ottawa and then eventually by the Red Wings. Started as a scout and then chief scout and then assistant GM. And he was there many years. I tracked his management career for 20 years. Whenever Jim and I would run into each other at a draft or somewhere on the road, and I was with the Stars or somewhere else or whatever we were doing, I'd say to him, I'm going to come and ask you. I want to work with you if we can. And the timing's going to be right at some point in the future. And lo and behold, 2013 occurs. We're looking to change under the Glardy and look for a new GM. And it's a cute story. Tom asked me to prepare a list of potential general manager candidates. So those are never my calls, quite frankly. I went to Les Jackson, who was at that time, on our management team, and a guy all of us respected. And I said, Les, we need to put together a list for Tom of potential GMs. And he came, and he said, fine, Jim, I'll have it to you in the morning. And he comes back with a list. And it had 6 or 7 really high-quality names on it. Didn't include Jim Nill. So I said to him, well, what about Jim Nill? And Les, in his way, as everyone here who knows Les, said, well, if you can get Jim Nill, you don't need a list. So I made one call, Jim Nill. Said, Jimmy, I'm calling. It's time. You think, can you come? I know there's issues. And it took 10 minutes to get Jim Nill to say, I'd love to come. That would be great. Now, we hadn't worked on any money, and he hadn't met Tom yet, so we had to go through that process. But Jimmy and I have been friends a long time, and I can tell you, he is as advertised. He's trusted by players, by agents, coaches, and other GMs, as much as anyone I've ever known. He says the right thing, and more importantly, does the right thing. He's just a great human being. I'm honored to call him my friend, and I think the world of he and Becky and their family. He's taken this franchise to new levels. He's the first two-time consecutive general manager of the year, and it's deserved. We are lucky to have him, and I want to thank his staff, Scott White, my great friend Mark Jenko, Jason Radaman, and all the people that work for the Stars now in management. We are in the best hands imaginable. Could not be better. So, Jimmy, thanks. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the players. I couldn't count them all over 42 seasons, you guys. It's thousands of players. And I will say this, I've had 10 years in baseball, and I've done some football, and I've been around NBA players just because we shared buildings with NBA teams. And while I'm not denigrating any of those players, NHL players are by far the best. Goes on and on and on, and it's unreal. Darian Hatcher, just fantastic. And the present players, unbelievably fun to watch. Tyler Sagan, Miro Heiskanen, Wyatt Johnston, Essa Lindell, Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, Jake Ottinger, Matt Duchesne, and that list goes on. And it's tremendous and a blast watching this team come together and play. But I want to focus on three guys that I think epitomize what we're all about in Dallas and why we have been the winningest franchise, other than Vegas, and they don't count because they haven't been here that long. We're the winningest franchise since 1995 in the National Hockey League. And it's because of the character and the spirit that these three guys conveyed, in my opinion, to us. They were the captains during most, if not all, of my tenure here. They all, I don't want to say they're the same because they're not, but they all exhibited the same attributes: grit, determination, toughness, intelligence, talent. Fantastic. It's the captains, Darian Hatcher, Brendan Morrow, who I'm so thrilled is going to be up here next and is a member of our Hall of Fame, and our current captain, Jamie Benn. Just great leaders, great players, and just have been fantastic to work with and watch, and I just think the world of them. Seriously, great. Next, I want to talk about the people that I've worked with. You guys have seen it, and you experience it every day now at this point in the franchise. The current franchise management is great. Brad's done an incredible job, and so have his staff. It's a great off-ice product. It's a great on-ice product. It's a great building. The show is great. And he and Matt Bowman and Dan Stukel and Dan Venegas and Damon Betcher have just done a fabulous job of taking this franchise to new levels. Just terrific. But I want to use this opportunity, because it'll become less possible as time goes on, to focus on the people and the job that was done over 30 years ago, who came with me to start the franchise in 1993. And many of them are here today, and I'm thrilled. It means the world to me. Jeff Cogan. Jill Cogan, if you guys recall. Fantastic. Our first CFO, Rick McLaughlin. The first Dallas Stars employee, Jeff Moore, and his wife, Jill. Our head of advertising, sales, and broadcasting, Bill Strong. Our current CFO and then controller, Therese Baird. And the guys that run the building for us at American Airlines Center, who we recruited from Pittsburgh, Craig Corson and Dave Brown. I'd also like to give thanks to Ed Rush, who we inherited when we bought the Star Center in Valley Ranch, who remains a great friend, and my nephew, Jeff Tummins, who by you guys for years was the creator of the clips that have now become synonymous with sport. You know, the Dallas Stars were the first team to ever take a movie clip and use it to crowd bump. No one had ever done it before. Jeff Cogan initiated it because we had a nice board. We didn't have much to work with at reunion except a really nice scoreboard. If you guys remember, a great video board, state of the art. And we used it to cut video clips. So all the things you would see, game on, that started this franchise, were all the handiwork of Jeff Cogan and Jeff Tummins. It was, you guys, simply the best execution for starting a franchise, in my opinion, in NHL history. We had 10 weeks. There was no ice. We didn't know if your Union Arena could make ice. I mean, it had a plant, but it hadn't been used. We had there was no hockey history here. No IH, no IH, not even an American League or International League franchise. There was no practice facility, no infrastructure, no TV, no program, no radio, no nothing. We all lived together, most of us, in the Hyatt Hotel, the Hyatt Regency under the ball. And we worked from 7 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. And it was, if there were 100 items on a to-do list, we might get 30 done, and there'd be 50 more. And we just had no idea how it would work out, but it worked out pretty good. I think we killed it. I'll give you some of the best was, how are you going to work without an organ? There was no organ. Fine with Kogan and I. Rock and roll, we're going. We were as I said, we were the first organization to use clips and animation for crowd bumps. And really, without the success that all those men and women who helped me start this franchise undertook, I'm not sure the league would have been able to expand to Florida, Tampa, Carolina, Nashville, or San Jose. So we made it work. It was great. So thanks to all of you. Thanks so much for coming. It means the world to me. Before I sign off by thanking my family, I want to give special recognition and thanks to 3 people here who have helped Kim and I, particularly in this stage in our career. First, to my assistant, and that's really not putting it well, Brittany McMullen. I mean, you guys, just all world. She's the best, one of the best people I know, and hardworking, dedicated, attention to detail beyond belief. She works for all of us, Brad, myself, Tom, and just handles it, smile, gets it done. She's terrific. She's really part of our family. I can't thank the world. Thanks, Britt. I'd like to point out and thank one person from my DSO-AG board who helped me get it going, who remains to this day one of the most significant supporters of the Dallas Stars and our future endeavors in broadcasting and directly, 7-Eleven CEO Joe DePinto. Joe, an unbelievable guy, you guys. This may be the best, really the most intelligent, down-to-earth, great CEO of any business I've ever been associated with. He supports us at every level, and he's supporting us now on lots of levels. And Joe, I want to thank you for that. We wouldn't be anywhere near as successful if we weren't with the support of you and Ingrid and 7-Eleven. So thanks, Joe. And last, my great friend and kind of business partner now, Neil Gruninger. Neil is the brains and driving force behind Victory and a parent media company, which is the holding company that now is controlling the future, in my opinion, of how local pro sports television is going to be delivered to fans. We're lucky to have him. He's been a great guy. The poor guy probably wakes up 4 days a week with a call from me at 7:30 in the morning. He's the hardest working guy in show business. So Neil, thanks, my friend. Welcome to Dallas, and appreciate all you're doing for Victory. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank my family. Famous person once said, "Family is not an important thing, it is the only thing." In my case, this is really true. I've spent countless nights on the road, away from home, thousands of games, swearing at referees, players, coaches, and if anybody's watched a game with me, particularly a playoff game, they know it's no fun. Okay? I'm the no fun guy watching games. And my family has had to put up with that. So I've had unbelievable support from all of my children. Chase, Brooke, Sam, and Chandler, thank you for all that you've done for me and what you mean to me. It's great. To my beautiful daughters-in-law, Megan and Isabella, thanks. You're the best. And to my grandkids, Sloan, who's here, James and Theo, who aren't, you're just the best. You make Pop's life great, so it's appreciated. I'd also like to thank my brother, Scott, who's my great friend and lawyer, and he's here. Terrific. I appreciate it, Scotty, for you coming in. It's great. And I saved the best for last. To my wife, Kim, this poor thing has had to put up with my volatility, my lack of attention to detail, which is epic, okay? Epic. All of my shortcomings. I love her unconditionally. My life would be half full without her. Kimmy, thanks. Appreciate it, hon. You got through it. Thanks again to everyone for all the tremendous support I've received and for this unbelievable honor. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.